Greetings and thank you everyone for turning out tonight. First business is of course having the public hearing. And first off, if anybody has any cell phones, would they please turn them over on vibrate or shut them off? I'd appreciate that. Or any other things that are gonna make loud noises. We don't wanna hurt Peter's ear, he had enough of that last night. I would ask that any comments or any testimony that comes forth tonight be directed at me, and Joan will be making notes. She may ask for clarification. Let the record also show, Joan, that we received a document from Birchfield Management Company of which you have a copy, and I'm going to ask Mel to speak to that at this point.
Well, actually, that'll be a part of the public hearing on the zoning regulations.
That's where we are.
Oh, you're gonna start right now? Okay.
Yep, start right in.
Okay, and David Schlansky was not able to come to the meeting tonight. He's out of town, and so he's provided this written testimony. And Shannon, I will get a copy of this to you and the other members of the Planning Commission as well.
Okay, very good. To try to make some sort of sense of this, of course I want the one that I want. Stuck to the back of another page somewhere. There it is. Give you more than 3 pieces of paper, I get paper challenged. Okay, we're going to start with the articles and discuss them as we go. And if I read this right, like I said, I'm paper challenged here. Is it on that one? Or did I get them out of order?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Articles 1 and 2, you're okay.
Yep. Articles 1 and 2, the previous hearing, we had no comments. At this point, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to either one of those articles? Let me know when you're ready. Okay, good deal. Okay. No other comments on Articles 1 and 2. There were comments on Article 3, and those are listed in the committee's report. So, is there any other comments on Article 3 that anybody would like to offer at this point? Hearing none. We'll move to Article 4. Article 4, there were some comments. Randy, you made some. Are there any other additional comments that anyone in the audience or at the table would like to make on Article 4? Hearing none on Article 4. Articles 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, there weren't any comments. Does anybody have any comments on any of those articles? Hearing no comments, we'll go to Article 10, of which, Peter, you had some comments. Yep. Would you care to share more, or?
Sure, yeah. In C, I'm just looking for clarification. So this is page 60C. Under density, there is the first sentence. So backing up a little bit, I think this sentence is sort of in between the old zoning rules and the intent of the new zoning. And in the old, I don't know how much we want to get into it, but in the old zoning rules, there was this hypothetical situation of in a PUD, you know, say it's half an acre per unit. You draw a plan and show the half acre everywhere and count up the number of lots, and that's how many lots you end up with in your PUD that you can then cluster. The new, well, the parcel of land I'm interested in is, or the zoning is the overlay district. And that was exempt in the old rules from that hypothetical situation. It was a straight math problem. It was, it's one single family house per 2 acres was the zoning, and it specifically exempted this hypothetical. I believe these new zoning regs are a lot better and a lot more consistent among all the zoning districts that can do PUDs. They all follow the same rules. But this isn't totally clear as to, Mel, can you help me out a little
Sure,
bit?
I can. Yeah, thanks. Basically, you know, one of the things, Mike, just from a process here, you know, there's a number of members of the Planning Commission that are in attendance tonight, and, you know, one of the reasons that they're here is they're curious about the testimony, but the other reason why they're here is the Planning Commission wants to help both the City Council and people who bring testimony to make additional improvements to these. And for instance, the point that Peter makes up is making relative to item C on page 60 is that, as he mentioned, when he said the hypothetical, if you were doing a PUD in any other district than the agricultural overlay district, you were required to submit a hypothetical plan. You had to take a piece of land, you had to draw streets, you had to show the number of lots that a particular development the shape that it would be in if it was to do a more normal subdivision. And once they did that, the board would take it and conclude this piece of land can have 14 lots. And then what you do, you take that hypothetical plan, you throw it away. You just had to remember the 14. So then they would come back with a PUD plan that had no more than 14. So it actually required, it wasn't a mathematical calculation. They had to submit a plan that just got thrown away. One of the things that I'm sure Shannon and the board is listening to this is the board was clearly trying to get away from submitting hypothetical plans, and I've spoke to Peter, and I agree that the Planning Commission should offer to take a close look at C and come back with their recommendations to the City Council. One of the things I'm trying to do is the Planning Commission is here to help everyone, all right, and the City Council doesn't necessarily have to take a position, but the Planning Commission has a meeting scheduled for Monday. So I can see Shannon down here taking notes, and so what will happen is Shannon will have a list, and from the result of this meeting, that list will be gone over by the Planning Commission, and the City Council will get a memo from the Planning Commission relative to their position, if you will, in any testimony that's given.
So here's my request, basically, for that first sentence, because I think this is the way it's written now is sort of halfway between the old hypothetical concept and the intent of the new concept to get rid of that hypothetical. So right now I'll just read it. The overlay density of the project shall not exceed the density which could be allowed, see, I think that's language from the old hypothetical, in the board's judgment if land were subdivided into lots which meet the standards for the districts in which the land is situated. So my request is to basically strike the which could be allowed in the board's judgment if the land were subdivided into lots, and instead just say the overlay density of the project shall not exceed the density of the standards for which the district in which the land is situated. Basically just saying that when you do a PUD, you can't exceed the density of the zoning. And basically eliminate the language that is a little vague as to are we still drawing hypothetical maps or not. If the council and the board doesn't want to do that, if they like this because it's there for other districts, then I would want to see it clarified again, like it used to be clarified for the overlay district. It was just exempt from this. So I'm sort of asking for two things. If the concept is to make all PUDs the same and no hypotheticals, then I think that could be accomplished by clarifying this first sentence. If If that's not what people wanna do, then I just would like something real specific back in the regulations for the overlay district saying that it's exempt from this hypothetical. It used to say that.
No, this will go to them and it'll come back to us and we'll have to have another public hearing, right?
Yep, and, yep.
Yes,
Okay.
okay, Pete?
I would presume you don't object to the second sentence. I mean, the idea of having an overall density, but not necessarily across the board.
The board being about greater concentration. Sure, yeah, that's right. And, yeah, and so that, and, you know, so they're allowing for, or may allow greater concentration. Sure, yeah, I have no problem with
Okay,
that.
so you're more concerned about the process of getting to that particular piece.
Yeah, basically to calculate what is the allowed number of units in doing the PUD.
Okay.
Which used to be, which in the current zoning regulations that are still in effect was very clear. It was 1 unit per 2 acre and there were no hypotheticals. It was exempt from this kind of language. And I think this is probably better the way it is now because it's treating anywhere, all throughout the district zone, throughout all the different zoning districts, they're all, if you can do a PUD, you follow the same rules. That's better than change it. But so if that's the way it's going, I think we just want to remove this language which sort of refers back to this hypothetical. It's vague. It's just, it's too vague as to what it's trying to do.
Shannon, I'll take a nod of the head. You understand where Peter's going with this?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
what will happen, Peter, is the committee will take or look at this, massage it, and then put it back to the council and we'll have another public hearing. Okay?
Yep.
So, any other things on Article 10?
No, that's,
Okay,
I'm good.
you all set? Anybody else have any recommendations or changes on Article 10? Okay, Article 9, there really wasn't anything other than me telling typo, and so that's corrected. Article 12, there's really nothing there, it has to do with right away.
It's about signs.
It's
Article
about
12
signs.
is about signs.
So, any other comments on Article 12?
I'm sorry, 12, I'm sorry.
Whoops.
Joe's comment was about signs, so I'm not sure that may be the wrong paragraph, but anyway,
Okay,
okay.
we may have found a little minor. Okay, let's go back. Article 11, any comments on Article 11? Any comments on Article 12? No comments on either. Article 13, Wynn, you had a comment. Are you satisfied where we've landed at this point? Or do you have some additional information?
Some flexibility in that percentage on the main floor. Flexibility on the percentage of residential on the main floor.
This,
Was that
13 is signs. Is that
sign?
what the
13 is
landmark
sign.
sign?
The only sign, we've got a sign on city property that's been there for the last 80 years. And, you know, hopefully that's, you know, grandfathered in.
Okay.
That's all.
We'll take that note.
Yep.
Okay. Article 14, which is actually general regulations. And there weren't any comments on that?
I have one.
You have some?
Yeah,
Chris,
I
go ahead.
Just looking for some clarification
Chris,
on
could
the
you tell us
exist.
the page number?
What's that?
Could you let us know the page number?
It's page 82.
Thank you.
It's under the existing small lots. And just some clarification on, I guess, what that's, what the intent is and what they're trying to do with that.
I can try to speak, I know why he's asking the question. Chris actually owns what at one point probably was considered a double lot. Chris actually has a piece of land where his house is on West Main Street, but the lot runs all the way back to Union Street. And when that area over there, you know, Union, Scoville Lane was divided, typically lots were either 4 rods by, I 4 rods by 8 rods or 4 rods by 7 rods, either 66 feet wide by 112.5 deep, or they might have been 82.5 feet wide by, 132.5 feet deep, something like that. The point is that it's likely that at one point in time, 100 years ago, this piece of land was intended to have a home on West Main Street and a home on Union Street. And in 1973, when the city adopted the zoning regulations, if those lots were at one point separated, they merged because of the minimum lot size of 15,000 square feet. The zoning district of your property is proposed to be in the historic neighborhood district, and I don't have it memorized.
It changes to I think it's
The min.
5 or 7,000 square feet.
Well, that's what I want to just look, because that's the important part of. There you go. Thank you.
It's 105 on my computer. but
That, yeah, central business, it's, we're gonna, Shannon, historic neighborhood,
So, 90.
historic neighborhood starts on 94. So the one-family dwelling is 7,000 square feet. And therefore, if your property is in total is 14,000 square feet, I would think that you would be able to apply for a subdivision permit to separate those two parcels, unless there was something in the land records that indicated that they didn't merge. But I'm gonna say worst case scenario, if you have 14,000 square feet with a minimum lot size of 7,000 square feet, at a minimum you could apply for a subdivision permit to split those two.
Right.
And I don't know I don't know the exact dimensions of your lot.
Yeah, and when we get to that section, I was gonna actually bring that up. It mentions a 70-foot road frontage, and I drove around that neighborhood and looked and counted quite a few properties that were actually less than the 70-foot or 75-foot. And I'm sure in the historic district in the downtown area, there's plenty of lots that are probably a little bit smaller than that. So I was just gonna question where that 75-foot or 70-foot, 70-foot I believe is, came from. But I was gonna wait till we got to that section. Pertaining to the lots, Mel, I guess what I was looking at is whether or not it's still relevant that we even have this part in this. I guess I'm trying to figure out what the intent is.
Well,
The way I understand it is that if you owned 2 pieces of property that were not contiguous prior to 1973, and they didn't meet the minimum lots requirements, those could remain as a building lot.
They didn't merge.
Correct.
That's correct.
If you did have, like my property, there was 2 properties adjacent to each other, and one of them was they're both non-conforming, so they merged into one property. Yet, after 1973, if I was to buy a non-conforming lot that's adjacent to my non-conforming lot, it doesn't merge, because they were not adjacent lots in 1973. So this one snapshot in time, this is what you had to have. And it doesn't make any, what's the intent? Is the intent to have smaller lots and to try to cluster your homes within a downtown area to limit sprawl? Or is it to have larger, I mean, what's the intent and what are we trying to get with it, I guess, is what I read it and it seems really conflicting.
Well, first off, the statutes relative to zoning regulations require require regulations as it relates to mergers. They require us to have that, and that's what this attempts to do. And I can tell you that there was a time when basically, let's say in your instance, let's say that you owned 16,000 square feet, all right? In 1973, when your property became zoned medium-density residential, those two lots merged, and that's because that was the policy. It was because there was a policy that stated that lots had to be 15,000 square feet. Now, I know that had you owned that piece of property in 1973, there's no question you would have felt that that was punitive. But I can just tell you, that was the policy that was adopted at that time. They were trying to get lots to be of sufficient size, let's say, of 15,000 square feet, right or wrong. Fast forward 30 years, 40 years almost, okay? Fast forward 39 years. The new municipal development plan and these regulations clearly attempt to recognize the older parts of the city, the historic neighborhood district, and try to get properties that are in that district to conform to the way that they were originally created in 1880, all right? And not only in lot size, but in building form as well. So I can tell you that the Planning Commission, we can check your lot. We can find out exactly what you own somehow over there, but I can tell you that in your instance, not that we spent a lot of time talking about your property, but I'm very familiar with your property. It was an attempt so that you could you could sell and build a house on that lot on Union Street, because that's the way that it was originally perceived back in 1880. I can tell you I believe that was the intent, and the type of home that you would have to build on that would have to fit within the neighborhood. So it's, yes, it probably, more than likely, it was hoped that that would become a lot, but equally, it would be developed consistent with other properties in the neighborhood. And I think that we need to check it, because if you have 13,912 square feet, this does nothing for you. All right, so it's really important to check that.
And that's not 100% of my intent. My intent is just to try to clarify what it is, because like I said, to me it didn't make much sense that if the intent is then to make it so that you want a minimum of 15, regardless of, not including the changes, but you wanted a 15,000 square foot minimum for a lot size, then why is it afterwards, if I was to buy a lot that's adjacent to, like if I bought a vacant lot next to my house, why then doesn't it merge then? Why is it only in 1973 this property merged? So if I have a non-conforming lot and I buy a non-conforming lot that's adjacent to my property today, why is it that it doesn't merge now? But it did only in 1973.
Because that was the
So
policy. That was the policy at the time, was to try to not recognize 7,300 square foot lots. I'm just being straight out honest with you. I mean, that's what that regulation was intended to do, because the policy at that time was to, in essence, discourage new development on lots that were less than 15,000 square feet. Right or wrong, I'm just telling you, that is clearly what that policy did. That's what it did.
Now, isn't that what happened to the Avenues, that lot next door?
Yeah, there's a number of them. Diane Smith Tucker. There's a lot of people that acquired so-called double lots prior to October of 1973, and those became merged, and they are merged. And what this is trying to do is to recognize that allowing them to be separated and developed consistent with other houses in the district is absolutely fine.
I want to remind everybody, we're here to hear testimony. I'm allowing things to wander off track a little bit so that hopefully we get enough information to the board so that they can go back, and if they feel that the concern is justifiable, they can make adjustments. But let's try to, because of time constraints, let's try to stay focused as much as we can. Appreciate your cooperation. Any other, Chris?
No.
Good deal, thank you. Article number 15. Randy, you had some comments, and again, you are at the table, so, do you have any other ones? If so?
Nope.
Okay. All right, Article number 16, Nelson Sears is not here. He had some concerns. Does anybody else have any, on Article 16, Section 1604-F? Sir, your name, please?
Alex Grant. I own 59 McDonough Drive, which is in the Otter Creek Basin District. And the reason I'm here is that in that district, which is I think essentially 6 buildings, multi-unit, if Mel knows, I've talked to him, and so if my language is wrong and I'm not saying what I'm trying to say, please correct me, because this is all kind of new to me. But multi-unit development is allowed through the PUD in Article 10, but multifamily unit is not allowed. And you know, so the grist mill currently has 4 units, the roller shade mill has 11 units, and the building that I own is about 4,400 square feet. I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. It's got significant structural damage from the hill sliding, which you probably all know with the Phelps report, but I'm trying to figure out sort of the best use of the building to make it viable, given its location, walking distance to downtown, and its size. Multi-unit seems like it would be a viable use that could support the kind of repairs that it needs. So what I'm proposing is that and I do apologize for missing the rewrite period as well, but my proposal would be to modify the regulations to allow that district to have multifamily units as a conditional use. Does that make sense?
Right, the property, as Alex mentioned, is in the Otter Creek Basin District, and the Otter Creek Basin District, all of the uses are the same regardless of where they're located within the district. However, some of the dimensional standards in that district depend on how close you are to Route 22A. You'll see 2 charts in there as to what can be done. So in essence, what Alex is looking for, if you look, I'm trying to find the section on Otter Creek Basin District. It starts on 1610, and you'll notice a list of the permitted uses, 1-family dwelling and 2-family dwelling, and then there's a list of conditional uses. And what Alex is requesting is that if you look under 15, a planned unit development is allowed. However, a multiple-family dwelling, a straight-out multiple-family dwelling, is not listed in the conditional use. And what Alex would like to do is for the Planning Commission, the council, to continue to consider adding multiple-family dwelling to that list. It would be a conditional use permit. And there actually is no density requirement in the Otter Creek Basin District. There is a lot area minimum, but there's no density requirement. So it would allow an application. One of the problems is at this point, the way that these are written, Alex can't get to the gate. He can't even make an application because I'm not going to waste his time. It's dead on arrival, and it would not be dead on arrival if multiple family was on the list as a conditional use. And one of the things I will say, Alex, and you know, Shannon will check this. The Planning Commission will need to carefully look at the municipal plan, because you know, one of the things is these regulations are written to parallel that plan. Now, having said that, I don't want anybody in this room to think that this public hearing doesn't have any purpose. It does have a purpose, and the city council, you know, if the city council wants to have something in their regs that does not absolutely match the plan, you know, you have that authority. I don't think you should think that you don't have any authority. You do have some authority, because there is a difference between a plan and the regulations. You should be fined. Not you? Okay.
Okay, any other comments on that? Shannon, I take it you have noted that?
Yep.
And I guess I'm trying to figure out, we will have the documentation before we go to public hearing, so we can kind of figure out where these items are, and you will share your notes. Sharon will share his notes with
Oh,
me
yeah.
so that we can figure out
Yeah.
what areas we need to cover.
Yep.
Okay, appreciate that. Is there any other section or within Article 16 that anybody wants to talk about? Ziggy?
I do. It has to do with the historical buildings on central business. I have the city plan here, and in the event of catastrophic disaster, it is our goal that multiple story buildings are strongly encouraged in the district in order to maximize development space and encourage a diversity of uses. On page, in the zoning,
Okay.
on 1 and 4, on the definition, it says, architectural shall reflect historic forms and adapt reuse of historic architecture is strongly encouraged.
Mm-hmm.
When you get page to 107, under C, in the event of a catastrophic disaster, building height of the damaged structure must be maintained at a minimum or must be comparable in mass from scale with the damaged structure. The city says encourage, the definition says encourage, and now this says it's mandatory. And then under, if you go back, go to page 132, it has pictures of the zoning, and it'll show like this, the buildings where it says this,
Mhm.
and then it says not this. And if you look at some of these, it's kind of also contradicting, I feel, the
Okay.
planning.
Right, we've taken, and Shannon has noted that, and they will look at that. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And I just want to bring up what Mel had brought up earlier about the lot size
Mhm.
for the historic, and just have, consider possibly a little bit narrower road frontage, based on the drive arounds I've been doing and looking at historically, what some of the widths of the lot size and stuff,
Okay.
so.
All right, we'll take that in consideration. Okay. Any other issues, concerns, testimony on Article 16? That is my last article then. Wen, did you have anything else that you covered? Okay. Hearing, is there any other testimony on the document itself, zoning and sub-regulations? If not, I will declare this meeting adjourned, and we'll turn this back over to the Planning Commission to make adjustments where they see fit, and send that back to the council. And Rennie, you?
After you're done, I just want to make
Yep.
comments related.
Okay, I'll let you make it now.
Well, I was wondering whether the council was going to have a workshop of some sort to kind of walk through it as a council, maybe with Mal and the planning board chair, so that, I'd like to understand how this differs from the existing regulation and why it differs from the existing regulation before voting on it. And I think if we spent some time kind of getting a little bit more familiar with it, rather than reading it individually and making comments, I think it's better if we could have dialogue about it.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things, Rennie, when the Planning Commission started to undertake this effort and got a grant and we were able to hire Landworks, I can tell you that the original intent was to, in light of the plan, the creation of the Historic Neighborhood District, the creation of the Northern Gateway District, and the need to develop some standards to protect historic character in the Central Business District. That was primarily the responsibility of Landworks. Also, because the subdivision regulations had not been, they were adopted in December of 1976, as you know, with that, and there has been no change in those in that 35 or 36 year period. Also, the Planning Commission really felt it was time to do a comprehensive review, and of which they did, and it just got to a point where they there was a lot more done to the regs than what was originally anticipated, to the extent that it probably moved to a category of a comprehensive rewrite. And therefore, when you do a comprehensive rewrite, we started out trying to keep track of, having Bill Gates do a lot of work for us to keep track of, deletions are crossed out and new language is underlined. And if we were to do a compare documents of the 2006/7 regs in this, if we produce this, I can tell you, I have a copy of it that Dave Slansky dropped off. It's probably 450 pages long, okay? So,
That's not what I'm.
but you want to
looking
kind of
for.
get to the nuts and bolts.
It's more the concept of the differences and why the
And I
differences.
agree, I mean, I think Brandon, we're kind of late to the game a little bit.
Yep.
As much as we know something about it, I would like to be able to understand it a little bit better to answer questions. And so-
Okay.
I mean, from what I've read, I think it's a great job on it, really. There's some really good concepts in there, but I'd like to understand it a little bit more before actually voting on it, that's all.
Right, so,
It's a ways away. I mean, we're not gonna have this back to the table probably until sometime in June before we review, and that will give us time to set up a workshop, because we still have plenty of time. It has to be adopted by when?
well, the way the process will work is any time the city council wants to change this proposal, they have to have another public hearing. And if at that public hearing there's additional testimony and the city council wants to change, make any changes, non-technical in nature, there has to be another public hearing, all right? Because at some point, the city council either approves it as warned or makes some changes and has another hearing. That can go on for up to 365 days from the date that it was officially handed to you. So I don't think that that's what the goal is. I'm sure that a joint meeting of the planning commission and city council would be fine. It is a little, it is a little tough to do because it did become kind of a comprehensive rewrite. But I think that the planning commission could kind of go through article by article, because some articles didn't change at all, right? And I think that that's what you're getting at, Rennie, is like, where are the major changes in this thing? And I think a joint meeting would be fine, would be helpful.
We would have to kind of establish a time allotment, what we felt that would be adequate to cover that, and I take Shannon's and Mel's recommendation on that. With Mel and his situation, he's gonna be out of service for a little while.
We can do it at Mills' house.
Yep, there you go, there you go.
So, but I'm thinking the next council meeting after the end of the month will be June 12th. And we gotta also be knowing where we are budget related. So I would be hoping that we could at least get together on the 12th, if that would work. Or if that doesn't work, then we try to follow probably on your meeting night rather than creating you, which is a Monday night, and I don't know if that causes a hardship for people. And so 2 dates that I am looking at is either June 12th or June 18th.
That's my wedding anniversary.
And mine too.
That's not gonna work.
Don't forget to send your wife flowers.
Okay.
I don't need to put them in the doghouse.
Okay. I have to make myself a note when I think of it. Okay, so Rennie, excellent recommendation. We will do that. But in the meanwhile, the planning commission has their task, and they are meeting Monday night. And if somebody wants to go sit and listen from the council or anybody in the public, they're more than welcome to sit in and listen to what goes on. So Monday night, 7 o'clock at City Hall. So feel free to go then, or we will try to set it up tentatively for the 12th, but that date might change. Okay? We won't try to mess with Bill's anniversary. Okay? If nothing else is here to be discussed, then I will close the public hearing, and we'll move into the city council meeting. Those that are here for the hearing, if you would choose to leave, we'll give you just a few seconds before we start talking and causing other noises. And thank you for your participation. Have a good evening. Excuse me. Okay, warrants have gone around. I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes of City Council meeting April 24th, 2012. I see Randy's hand out of the corner of my eye. And Rennie seconded it. Omission, corrections, or errors? Any? Hearing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Gonna go right to review the budget report. Any questions of Mel?
I probably, Mike, will talk a little bit about the current budget as it relates to the proposed budget once we get to that item on the agenda.
Okay, let's hold our questions and comments then. Committee reports, any?
I have a couple of things related to the Recreation Committee. First of all, our citizen Betsy Rittner has contacted me and wishes to become a member of the committee. So I guess if this is an appropriate place, I'd like to ask for, or at least move that we add her name to our committee.
We have a motion that we add Betsy Rittner to the committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Randy seconded. Open for any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Thank you very much. And Mel may have some few words about, in his report, about some renovations to the bathhouse, and he just made the committee aware of that to add some little privacy to the changing area. The other thing I'd like to mention is that Cheryl Brinkman has requested the committee to appropriate some money for a bridge in the outdoor classroom on part of the path there. And we agreed with that in principle, although I'm not asking for a motion today for that, because we're, for a couple of reasons. First of all, we need some discussion on that, I guess, and secondly, that we're waiting for the renovation of the basketball courts to be complete before we know that we have some additional funds, so.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. And then I have some more, if we get to the goals, I have some more that I'd like to add.
Okay, very good. Any other committee reports? Farmers Market, I'll jump in there. Vergennes Farmers Market begins its new season on Thursday, May 10th, and they'd asked to join them at 3 to 6:30. And their spring and summer of fresh vegetables, breads, prepared foods, and they've got eggs and all sorts of goodies. So that'll be on the green this Thursday. So, and that will be on the website as well. Peter, this is I don't know if you call it a committee or whatever, but I made myself a note. We're getting close to it's that time of year for annual increases, and I asked you to work on that process.
Mm-hmm.
It's
and I still have the material Mel provided.
okay. So if you
last
can
time. Okay.
resurrect that back out, because
because
we tried to build that so they have, Mel has that number before we actually close the budget. So it fits in the next year.
I actually have another survey of the league, one that's the following year.
More current?
Because I think you have one. Yep.
I'm just planning for you and I to get together.
Yep. Okay.
Appreciate that. Open up for public comment, and if it's here about the crash, I'd ask you until we get to that area, and I have an apology to make when we get there. If not, we'll go to old business, and we'd ask the chief to join us, or he can sit where he's most comfortable right there. We're gonna talk about police station site alternative ranking, and we've asked George to do a little presentation. I'd ask him to do that first before we get into the discussion. Okay, Chief, the floor is yours.
What I did is, Mel asked me if we could get a little fact sheet as far as not even concerning what site I think is best or whatever. I just came up with the basic facility requirements. These are things that I would look for in a police station. And I based this on some research that I've done. I've reviewed a couple other police stations. I certainly looked at the Vermont State Police Barracks in New Haven. I looked at the Middlebury Police Station where I came from, which has a great facility. I took a look at Milton and also up in South Burlington. And even though those facilities are much larger than anything Vergennes would need, there are some basic requirements and some basic concerns when you build a police station. So certainly the first thing you want to concern yourself with is the safety and security. Safety and security not only for the people that will be coming there for assistance, but also the people that we may have in temporary custody or people that are coming there as victims. Then functional and operational ease. Functional meaning that it meets all requirements as far as basic police needs, and operational ease that if anybody's trying to contact us or anybody's trying to use our facility, i.e. as victims and whatever else, it's easy to get to, easy to use. Ease of accessibility goes without saying. You certainly want a facility that's easy to get to and find your way to. Vergennes being the size that it is, located near schools in downtown area, probably within 5 minutes, I can get to any place I want to be in the city using blue lights and siren, but nevertheless, that's a concern too. And then certainly an ease of sustainment and maintenance. We don't want to build a facility or have a facility that requires a large amount of money for the basic maintenance or annual maintenance, and something that's easily sustainable, i.e. Maybe alternate sources of heat or electric. And I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not an architect, I don't build facilities, I just know what I like to have using them as a police officer. Any questions thus far? Then I went into specific instruction features of the facility. A good police facility, one that's well constructed, is separated into two parts: the operational side and then the administrative record storage, evidence storage, and training side of the house. The reason for that is when, for instance, if I take somebody into custody, I bring them into a sally port into the facility. A sally port is that type of a part of the building that I can drive my cruiser in, I can shut the door behind me, I can secure my weapon. If the person happened to be sprayed with OC spray, we can decon them. And then once the door shuts behind them, behind us in the cruiser, we take the guy out, decon him, and we make sure that we do everything we have to do to protect ourselves before we take him into the booking room. So from the time the person goes in to the time he is released, we're keeping him as safe as possible, and we're recording the whole operation. One of the key features of a defense is to see how well we maintain a chain of custody and what we're doing. So sally port is really key. And again, this is the operational side of the house. So if a person is in custody, we go into the sally port, we take them directly into the booking room. They would stay in a booking room in cells until such time as we're finished processing them. We may bring them into what's known as a hard interview room. A hard interview room is a room that you interview suspects. You may take statements, you may have his attorney, his or her attorney with you at the time. The hard interview rooms are for that purpose. Likewise, you have the patrol room on that side of the house. The patrol room is basically where the police officers do their business. If they have to do paperwork, if they have to do any type of report writing or whatever else, this is where they would do it. So the sally port, the hard interview rooms, the booking room, and a juvenile detention room are all on the operational side of the house. That's all on the operational side of the house. On the other side of the building, you would have the chiefs, sergeants, and maybe a detective's office. You'd have a briefing room, you'd have training rooms, locker rooms, evidence room. That's where that would be on the other side, and soft interview rooms. Now when I talk about soft interview rooms are those rooms that if somebody was the victim of a crime, they would come in the lobby, we would meet them in the lobby, we would bring them in the soft interview room, and that's where we would interview them. At no time would they have face-to-face contact with the suspect who may be in custody. And if you design the building correctly, you drive in, and for a brief second, they may see a car, or they may be able to look out the back of the cruiser and see somebody entering the building, but that's where their contact ends. They have no more, and that's key for us. We want to make it so people feel comfortable coming to the police station and talking to us and giving us statements. We rely upon that for convictions when we go to court. If people are reluctant to do that because they're afraid to come in because somebody's going to see them walking in the front of the building, they're not going to come in and talk to us, and you run into that all the time. So basically, that side of the building, the administrative side of the building, if you want to put all things listed there, records, evidence, and training, that's the administrative side of the building. We talked about the sally port. Like I say, a sally port, the minute the door opens, the camera starts recording all events, and from the time they're there to the time they leave, everything is recorded. Booking room, again, the booking room should have 2 jail cells, heavy construction doors so you can bring somebody in, you set them down, there's a metal bench. They're not meant to be comfortable, but they are meant to be functional. And then along in the booking room, you would also want to have maybe a metal bench with you have other additional detainees. You can hook them to the bench or handcuff them to the bench, or if they have to use the bathroom facilities, there's a bathroom facility right in the booking room. So theoretically, if we arrest somebody, we take them into the sally port, we take them in the booking room, we do what we have to do, we put them back in the cruiser in the sally port, and out the door they go. And no time do they go to the other side of the building. And that's the best layout for a police facility. I talked about the hard interview rooms. Patrol room, again, it goes without saying, it's just where officers do their business. It's where they have their records, their desk, and they do reports and whatnot. An armory for storage and working on, it doesn't have to be a big room, but an armory should have an arms vault for any storage of weapons, and the facilities to do weapon maintenance. We do weapons maintenance twice a year. It's good from a legal standpoint, and it's also good from just an operational standpoint. Officer Worley, despite the fact that he's a part-time officer, has put himself through a number of firearms maintenance courses, and he will be our armor and firearms instructor. Quartermaster room for storage of uniforms. Uniforms and equipment cost a lot of money, as you well know, and we want to take good care of them, so we want to have a place where we can keep these that are free from mold and mildew or whatever else. Physical fitness and the self-defense training room. I'm proud to say that since I've been here as the chief of police, other than Sergeant Greenslett's major medical issue, no fault of his own, we've had one sick day in almost 2.5 years. The reason for that, I venture to say, is because my guys take it seriously with physical fitness. The more physically fit you are, the clearer you think, and the less apt you're going to get hurt if there's an altercation, and certainly makes you a better police officer. So physical fitness is a key component, and along with that, it would be a self-defense training room. We would have rubber mats. If we're doing any type of self-defense training, that's where it would be. Male and female locker rooms, equipment storage for patrol room, just a small, it would just be a small closet. Evidence processing room. The evidence processing room is that place where if an officer brings in some small pieces of evidence, he would put them in lockers. The evidence officer would come in at a particular time, take the stuff out of the evidence lockers, process it, and put it in the evidence room so it's easy to find if we have to return property or we have to find property for, let's say, for defense counsel to come in and take a look at it. This is also where we're going to store our DVDs from our cruisers. I don't know if you know this or not, but we've made an effort to have all the cruisers in the department have what's known as a watch guard system. The watch guard system runs on a continuous loop. If you flip the blue lights on in any of the patrol cruisers, the system actually records back 1 minute prior to the blue lights coming on to help you in court cases. And then at the point in time when an officer is done with that DVD, he will bring it in, we log that in evidence. So at any time if a defense counsel asks for proof of a traffic stop or to review a traffic stop, or if we have a complaint against an officer, it's right there on the video. And one of my points was to have officers always wear their mics and use them every time they get out of the car. So again, the point I'm getting to here is evidence is key. Proper storage of evidence and maintenance of evidence is a very important part of our job, and you need to have the right type of room for that. And the storage room, again, that goes without saying. We have a garage for processing vehicles off the evidence room. That would be on the other side of the building. If we seize a car, we do seize a lot of cars. We're very active on the street. We're doing a lot of proactive narcotics and criminal enforcement, and we do seize vehicles. And I'll tell you, anybody that's ever tried to process a vehicle in cold or rainy weather, that's not an enjoyable part of the job. It is what it is right now, but if we're gonna have a building, I'd like to have a room so we can pull a car in. It's all recorded. There's no questions asked as far as how we're doing it and why we're doing it. And the evidence then would be taken right from that room into the evidence room. Briefing room, kitchen, that's where the officers can go in and eat. If there's a briefing, we try to have a briefing every night to let the night shift coming on. I'll go in and brief the night shift, or the sergeant will, or likewise the day shift. There's also a place where the guys can store their lunch and have a microwave to heat it up. Then the sergeant's office, the detective's office, and the chief's office. And again, for those of you, I'm sure you all know, Jason Ouellette is now the detective. He's doing an outstanding job, and I'm running him ragged as far as his investigations, but he's doing a great job. He's closed a lot of tough cases, not only for us, but other departments. An admin bathroom, the admin intake dispatch console is just a small room. Somebody comes in the door, there's a glass between us, we can talk to them, get their information, write it down. It's where the dispatch console would be. As I mentioned, 2 soft interview rooms where we would interview victims and complainants. A lobby to the police station with a separate foyer. When you come in the door, you're not walking right into the lobby. There's a separate foyer for the entrance into the building. Public restroom, records room. Right now, we've got records stored all over the place. And one of the things, just for lack of room, that's the way it is. But what you should do is if you build a building and you have a records room, you want to have a dry chemical system that if there's ever a fire, that protects the records. You don't have water coming down on top of them and ruining them. And you have to maintain records, I think, for seven years. Administrative training room, that's where we would have, if there was a classroom type of instruction, that's where we would do it. A 3-sided vehicle storage building with a cold storage area, that's where we would keep any type of oil, tires, and things like that. It's just a lean-to, it's not heated. A boiler room, maintenance room, a general storage room, a server room for the computer, and a security compound. And the reason we ask for that is on the back of the building, like if you go past the New Haven Barracks, they have a keyless entry system. The gate opens and shuts, it's all electric. Officers bring their cars in there. Their vehicles are secure. If they seize a vehicle, it's also their compound, vehicle impound area. Everything is right inside that compound. And the last thing you want to do is have people starting to vandalize cruisers or people's cars that you've taken in, because basically you're responsible for those cars once you impound them. And that also can be combined with the impounded vehicle area. So that's basically what you're looking at for a police facility. The makeup of the building, the type of construction you have, the type of roof you have, it's all, I'd have to defer that to a contractor or an architect. But this is what I would like to have for building. And the reason I came up with this is, again, I looked at other police facilities. I was there on the ground when Chief Hanley designed his. I think he did an outstanding job. The only difference between ours and his is some of the layout and a little bit more of the security and the vehicle evidence processing area. I've talked to the other officers down there, and they pretty much concur in most respects about what I've talked about here. And I've talked to other police administrators, and they're all pretty much in concurrence with what I came up with for a list. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions? I know there's a lot to throw at you, but go ahead, Ziggy.
How many square feet are we talking about?
I don't know, Ziggy. I'd have to have an architect take a look at this and figure it out. I mean, I couldn't tell you.
Do you know how big the Middlebury Barracks, do you know how big that building is offhand?
The New Haven Barracks?
Or the Middlebury Police Station?
I don't know how I...
6,000.
Yeah, 6,000, maybe 6,500, yeah.
I've got it right here. I did call Brett Walker when I got the...
While George is looking that up, George, Mel, and I had a little sidebar last night talking about some stuff, and we got to realize where we're at. We're still at a selection point of locations. As far as the building goes, we really can't say it's $500,000 or $1.5 million. what needs to be happening at some point, we gotta pin down to see if we're building from ground zero up, reconstructing, so we wanna have a couple different options, but we also need to know what a total building would cost. To do that, we'd have to go to another phase here and authorize some funds to have an architect design a building, but it all ties back, what's first, chicken or the egg here? Are we going with an open lot, or are we going with something that's already constructed and we refurbish it? So that's kind of where what we're tossing back and forth. And Mel was, I don't know if you did get to talk to Shalinsky about?
I have talked to David. One of the, George and I we just toured around town and came up with a list, and there was a couple that were added. We didn't knock on doors, see if we had permission to talk about properties. But anyway, in speaking to Dave Schlansky about 48 Green Street, according to Dave, I believe that they recently signed an extension to their lease to the Addison Northwest Supervisory Union. Also, David, David's business, Birchfield Management, they use, half of that building, and David is certainly not wild about not owning that building, all right? So the point is that if that's really the way David feels, that he really is not interested in selling the building, and therefore would resist any kind of condemnation. And I can tell you, I'm not a lawyer, but I think typically if we were to go out and start, if we were to try to condemn property, one of the things that either a judge would rule on is the necessity of condemning. And I think in this instance, I think the city would be hard pressed to prove that we don't have any alternative in Vergennes for a police station. I don't think that we could meet that test, and so therefore, if in fact, and I'm happy to talk to David one more time, but my sense in my discussions with him is that he, at this point in time, is not interested in conveying that building.
It would be my recommendation that we just take it off, because that's where the point we were getting at last night. We don't want to put the taxpayers through financial strains of going through court cases if it was in the final. So I just like to get a consensus about.
I was kind of curious about
take it right off
these improved properties and whether or not there'd been any discussion with the property owners or not, because I didn't think he'd want to sell, and there are a few other ones. Maybe Ziggy would have been willing to, but I think that the more you carry them forward, if there's no chance of getting them, then it's kind of a moot point to have them on the list.
Yeah, I agree, Bill. I'm really, I don't think that David was just posturing. I mean, David and I had a conversation, and he really, one of the problems is that if, I think it'd be tough negotiations for that building. I know what he paid for the building. Anybody can find out what he paid for the building, but one of the things is that if he was to convey that building to the city, he needs to find another place to be.
Yep.
And so therefore, not only would you have to pay for the building, but if it was gonna cost him more to come up with a similar facility, you're gonna reach back into your wallet again. And so it just may, although I know, Mike, that's very much a preferred site to you because of its proximity to the fire station, and 30 years ago when it was sitting there with a leaky roof, we missed
30,
it.
15.
Okay.
One thing I have concern in that building, like I said, being around here since I was a kid, I'm concerned what was put in that foundation way back. So that's the only thing I'm gonna say on that one.
I will tell you
No bodies.
Not that, no.
Oh, okay.
No
bodies.
After the following morning, after our last meeting, I sent an email to Matt Carter at People's United. I copied you on that, Mike. And Matt did write back to tell me that somebody else in his office is handling this and was supposed to get back to me. And I haven't heard back from People's United, so I don't have any new information in that regard. So what I'm hoping, I mean, if the board, wants to remove 48 Green Street, that's that's fine. I guess what I'm hoping is that George's presentation gives folks a better understanding of what we're looking for. I can tell you, George and I have had some conversation, and if we're looking to just go find some space that's a little bigger than what he's got, George would prefer to just stay at City Hall in his cramped space, all right? And I think you've said, Mike, if we're gonna do something here, we're gonna do it right. So that's why what we wanted to do was I think you now understand a little more as to why we set our initial criteria of a 1 acre parcel, to be able to have, parking and place for storage of vehicles and all of these others. It's really, we're not talking about a small piece of land. It really requires, I don't want to say that we couldn't live with a 3/4 acre lot, but preferably a 1 acre developable site would be preferred.
Mike, how do you propose seeing this process play out? We've got.
I think
we need to go.
We talked about this the other night, you, Bill, or Mel and I, last Friday night when we were working the green policy again. And it would be nice to get it sugared down to two lots that have building on it, 2 lots that don't have buildings on them, and get the rest of them out of the way, and then kind of figure out how we can sugar it down more. And then we can kind of figure out where we give some directions to an architect. We give an architect George's document and say, okay, this is our wish list, okay? Once the wish list goes out and then we see whatever the dollar figure is, then we have a point to discuss with George, okay, George, we're gonna have a hard time coming up with this amount of money. I'm just using that as verbiage. What could we do, or what could we not do? So
you, go ahead.
Do we have any more information on the lumber?
No.
That's what Mel was just talking about.
No.
Okay.
That's really, it's still under CH Man, but CH Man has released that to People's United.
That comment.
I don't have any new information on that.
We're still waiting for feedback on that.
Do you think, are we gonna be discussing this as a council? Are we gonna have a building committee that might be able to do work on the side, that could certainly make some decisions, a lot more quickly than every 2 weeks?
Yep. I think that would be a wiser idea. And then just report back to the council. And I know Ziggy wants to serve on that committee.
I do.
And I know, anybody else want it? Ready? You want to serve on it?
Yeah, I've done police stations before.
Okay, so I'd like to get another third council member. Anybody willing to? Randy? Peter?
Community?
Community? Community?
Seems like that would be a really, really good idea, because for just for the council to have the discussion at this point and come out with something, and then the first time it really gets out to everybody is when here's the plan that the council's coming forward with.
Right, that's what I was gonna bring up.
That's really not a
Okay.
exciting idea.
I have a volunteer in the audience. Chris takes a heart in the police department, and I'd ask her to serve as a citizen representative on that committee. Okay, along with George, of course. George would have to be part.
When you're talking about architect, how far is he gonna go before we get some kind of idea? I mean, how much is
He's not gonna do anything. What you need to do is establish
The lots first.
the lots.
Right, but I mean, when
Okay.
you say when we're gonna get it to the architect, and then, I mean, how far, how extinct are we gonna go with that before we can get it to the people?
Well, I think what we need to do, if we can narrow this a little more, and then what we need to do is to develop a scope of work for professional services, which would include, an architect, that, would have access, obviously, to civil engineers. But I don't think that we're at a point of designing a police station. What we're at a point of is assessing.
Right, but when you say architect, in my brains, I'm thinking thousands of dollars. That's why I was just wondering.
Well, what we do is we
We're not
need
there
to develop a scope of work that we would expect and send that out to, firms that, would be qualified. I mean, we could pre-qualify firms, and we could go that step of finding out, firms that would be interested in doing it. You could pre-qualify.
You
and
could
then-
also look at like design build folks like Naylor Green or
Right.
Brillow, because they can package that all together in one price, and it might be less than having an independent architect.
Let's leave that to the committee. to,
Yeah, and that's
pull
what you have to
together.
look at all the
Yeah,
options.
Scope of work.
Just throw one more idea into that, just because we were talking about
Yeah.
architects. There are professional organizations that build police stations. I mean, that design them, not just your architect off the street who doesn't know about police stations, but there are, and I came across a couple on a website, one which was actually cool. It was down in Massachusetts where they had taken an old building and a historic building and reconstructed into a police station that met all the police station standards. And not that that's what I'm suggesting, but it was kind of neat because the Kennedy building is.
If you would share that information with any, or with the chief, or to Mel,
I'll get it to
and Mel
Mel.
will get it out. Another group that might be at the disposed, if it's done in the right manner, Buildings and General Services, State of Vermont, might be, that might be an avenue to pull some resources from.
Mayor, just to let you know, I did, because Bertoloff did do the architectural design of the Middlebury Police Department, I did call them to get an idea of what they were talking about. And the Middlebury structure has a building footprint of approximately 7,640 square feet. They also have an additional 42,000 square feet for parking and impound lot. That's a huge parking lot down there, something we don't need anything that big. We don't need an impound lot that big. So that just give you an idea of what you were talking about for size. And they did the work back in 2003.
Okay, so back to the sites, that's where you wanna go. You wanna talk about the sites for a minute, or not? My first thought was that everybody who's on the list should be contacted and just said, like with your discussion with Slansky's, are you interested, or probably would ask it the other way, are you not interested? And then you come off the list. If you are interested, then it becomes something that we continue to discuss.
What I would ask that the newly formed committee take that responsibility. Mel has got a lot on his shoulders between now
Yeah, okay.
and his NIA operation. So I think the committee has enough guidance and ideas, and they can always give Mel a call or myself a call. 'Cause
Yeah, some of them, it's, obviously, I've talked to some of them.
Sure.
I don't know that I've talked to Bill Towns or not, but I mean, I think that we can put that together fairly simply.
Okay.
Yeah. But as far as, yeah, I mean, I am running out of time here, but let me just look through, there may be only a couple that I haven't talked to, so it's not,
Okay, I just,
Yeah.
that was,
you know,
thought that would help.
yeah.
Okay, so if the committee will develop an email group and establish whatever means of communication best fits your need, whether it be cell phone or whatever, then, and use George as the focal point then, okay? Thank you. So we're not gonna do anything more until we hear some feedback, and we would ask that committee, if they have something by the next meeting, May 22nd meeting, that would be great, but if not, we understand. It may take a little while to get that off the ground and set some dates. Excellent. Any other questions of the chief, or any other questions of us?
No, sir. That's it. If anybody has any other questions about why I came up with how I come up with these ideas, just give me a call. I'll talk.
Okay. All right, we're going to old business, item number B, proposed city policy for use of the city green. First off, I said that I have an apology to make. I've been ill and fighting flu and another issue, and am still not 100% yet, as you can tell in my voice, but Bill and I met on Friday and put together some minor adjustments we threw it out, I threw it out to the councils individually, and I have to remind the council, when, I only send stuff out to you lately individually, because if you do a reply all, you're violating the open meeting law. We don't wanna do that. So, that's why stuff is getting sent out. I didn't get it posted to the net, okay? Mel and Bill and I were just not comfortable with keep throwing it out, and constant change, it's gonna get confusing. So what we did is, I think Mel and I, and Bill is aware of this, we have basically 4 points that we wanna take and try to cover tonight. And if we can get a consensus as to where we're going, and Mel, you and Bill are gonna help me remember what those 4 points are.
Yeah.
Okay, one of them is, and I probably, this will not be in any sort of order, is the sign this big, which is basically 5 by 7, or thereabouts. Is it this big, 8.5 by 11, however you wanna put it, or is it up to 3 foot square size?
Which sign?
The sign that's gonna go
The sponsor sign.
The sponsor sign. The sponsor, thank you, Randy. The sponsor sign. We did come up with some ideas as to what really needs, and so there's uniformity to the sign and nobody's guessing. I was against it at first, but I flip-flopped on it, and what we thought, we can create a piece of cardboard of sorts, nice, have it printed, and so that the sponsor fills in basically their name, and all the rest of the stuff, it refers back to, for further information, contact the city clerk. Okay? So let's decide on the size of a sign.
That will be at the scene.
That will be attached or in close proximity to the display.
Close proximity is? As right in front of it?
Right in
or
front
on
of
it?
it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's
You know,
clarifying.
it's not intended to be on the, if it's a building of sorts, it's not on the inside of the header, on the back side where nobody can see it. It's gotta be seen. It doesn't have to be center of display.
It seemed like a lot of the discussion about that particular sign on the display was about aesthetics.
Yep.
And that it not ruin whatever that display may be. And I think that even though we want to pass the casual observer test, that there has to be something that people can see, you know, a moderate distance, but not necessarily a trucker going through town. And I guess, you know, we talked about it, I think that that maybe we were thinking something that might be, you know, 6 or 8 by 12 or 16, you know, rectangular, that would be pre-printed and furnished to the applicant by the city, so that they all look the same, they're all the same size. All it does is put the sponsor's name on it.
I don't think it should be any larger than 8.5 by 11. That would be.
Any other
What's-
comments?
What's going on it? How much
It's,
verbiage?
again, very little verbiage.
This
But
display is
this display is
sponsored
sponsored by
doo-doo, according to the city policy.
Yeah, according to city policy. Any questions, contact city clerk, something to that effect.
Be
And so you
provided
get-
provided by the city.
And what we're gonna do is, when the person comes to fill out or bring their application in, which we haven't designed yet, is after it's approved, Joan or somebody will fill in the sponsor's name, hand it, and says, this has to go to your display. Has to be present at your display.
The less verbiage, the smaller the sign needs to be, obviously.
Understood.
8.5 by 11, I mean, in my opinion, if it says this display is sponsored by X according to city policy, that's like perfect verbiage for an 8.5. You can even have the sponsor in a larger version or whatever. Because you are gonna have, the plan still is to have another sign somewhere else that kind of more details the policy.
Yes, yep.
But that would be my thought about it, that instead of trying to put in another sentence, or instead of even saying, instead of questions refer to so-and-so, that could go in your big sign, for example.
Is that still over by the information booth? Gonna be that big
Yes.
sign?
Yeah. You know, one of the things, you know, when Randy brings up, you know, where's the sign going, how close is it, whatever, if we can back up a little bit about some of the other items that are in the parentheses where it says establish a city green committee and act on applications. You know, what the thought is would be to create a committee that would be comprised of 3 people. And none of these are carved in stone, but this is an idea. The 3 people would include the city clerk, a member of the planning commission or the DRB, and it could, you know,
They would
one or the
appoint
other,
that.
whatever. And they, let's say that it was the planning commission. The planning commission would designate a person. City council wouldn't designate the person. The planning commission would designate the person, or if it was the DRB would designate the person. And then the third person would be someone designated by the recreation committee, right? Because we don't have this parks commission, Rennie, that you brought up, obviously. And so what I was trying to do is come up with something that might be similar to that, of, in essence, city representatives. And that's it. It's a 3-member committee. Notice that there's nobody on the city council, and the reason why there's nobody on the city council is because of the appeal process, all right? So Randy, relative to, relative to all of the fine details of the size of the sign and the font or exactly where it's located, that's actually part of the application process to that committee. So it could try to simplify what the city council needs to do as it relates to this policy. As long as there's some guidance, I think 8.5 by 11 is probably enough guidance to include the name of the sponsor, and then that committee can come up with an appropriate sign. And so so basically what I would like to hear is how the city council feels about that kind of a structure, and we would include an appeal process. One of the other things similar to zoning is that if failure to act is deemed approval, that was something that Anthony brought up, we would incorporate that into this as well. So I don't know how you feel about that. It really, by having that committee and the city council as an appeal process, to me, it keeps it all local.
What I'd like to do to keep this thing moving, is there anybody at the table that does not agree with that approach?
I just have a question, because it wasn't clear. The way this looks like, the way...
This is gonna change, Peter.
Right. No, but the city green committee was the intent that it was to act on all the applications?
That's correct.
Instead of things going to Joan and Joan making the decision, all requests to use the city green, the park, would go to this city green committee.
Right.
That's the proposal.
Right.
With the hope that most of them are very simple,
Mm-hmm.
and with only 3 members, it'd be fairly simple to get a majority or a unanimous decision on those, and then if there is an appeal, we hear it.
Is that too small a committee?
Yes, that's plenty. That's plenty.
He said it wasn't too small.
Is it too small a committee?
No.
Again, we're trying to keep this fairly easy to convene and respond, you know, given circumstances. Not put too many constraints on people. And again, whatever we do put here is subject to review, okay? So we could test the waters for a year and come back to the table a year down the road, and if something wasn't working smoothly, it could be adjusted.
The way that this, just to clarify, Peter, under Article 1, the second paragraph, that would be, Joan would have the authority to deal with that second paragraph. Those groups, it would be, in essence, administrative. It's only the others,
Okay,
under the special use, it's only the for-profits or the so-called others that would go in front of the committee. So like, for instance, if the Methodist Church wanted to have a bake sale, it's a church, they want a bake sale, they schedule it, all right? Now, if you want everything to go before this city green committee, that's fine, but, at least this initial draft would be to leave those, organizations, the nonprofit community service organizations, church groups, could be able to just schedule that with Joan without board action.
So this continues the separation between activities, if you wanna call it that, and displays.
Correct.
Basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what relative to the for-profits, instead of a for-profit coming to the city council, it comes to that board.
Okay.
And anybody could appeal to the board.
Who's the third? DRB
I
or
said
planning?
either
Either
one, I don't,
What was the third?
recreation.
Oh, okay. Member of the rec committee,
Recreation committee.
but not
But not Joe.
Joe. Okay.
We want to keep the council out of it in case we have an appeal.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes no conflict of interest.
So how does that play into Article 2, number 5, in terms of the scheduled events with the clerk and the dates we had and so on?
Some of this would need to
That's
be
part of
rewritten. I
another
think
discussion.
that's, I should have put a parentheses under 5.
That's another
We need some
point of
guidance
discussion.
on,
We're
we
gonna do
need a
that
guidance
later.
on number 5.
Yep.
As to whether or not
Because
we
this is
just
for
have a
displays, not events, so it's for displays, not events, so
Yep.
it's not
There's-
administrative necessarily.
That's
Two
correct,
more
so-
things that we have to accomplish, or I'd like to accomplish, is the amount of time.
Yep.
Whether it be 60 days or less than that, and the amount, is it limited to November 1 through April 1, or is it 365 days a year?
So 5 could be, if it was the council's desire, 5 could be eliminated. If you really don't, if you want one process that covers 365 days, then you eliminate 5.
I can live with that.
Okay, I mean, that's what we,
And that's where
Okay.
we're trying to get,
What we
but
do.
before we get to that, can we just confirm, is everybody comfortable with the committee approach?
Yeah.
Okay, so we will take that one forth as we have described it tonight. Now, let's go to the amount of time,
45 days. 45 days.
45 days,
down here.
okay.
So is there consensus on
Is-
remove 5?
Okay, no, excuse me, never mind, we'll go in order. Do we want to remove number 5? Do we want it
I think it makes it
365 days
clean,
here?
makes it real clean if you just take it out.
Joe,
Yep.
Ziggy, any
Yeah.
problems? 365 days a year?
And there's also not necessarily a conflict between a display and an event going on. You could have both there at the same
Conceivably.
time.
The only concerns that I have is during the summer months that we may have some issues. We don't want to slow down our efficiency of our public works people cutting the grass and having to trim or move a display and something get broken or anything like that. That's a concern, and let's test the waters and come back to that if we need to.
Okay, so
Anybody who has a display will have to mow the lawn.
I like that idea. Cut down on our cost.
I have a question.
okay, so we delete 5.
Ziggy,
Like, Memorial Day. How does that, will they have to come in front of this board and to get on to have that?
they wouldn't come in front of this board.
Well, not
They would
this
go
board,
in
I'm
front
saying.
of that
The
other.
3 board.
The other board, yes, the 3-member board,
So
yes.
they'll have to be informed that they're gonna have to do that from now on. Like Memorial Parade. See what I'm talking about?
I see what you mean.
Well, unless if the Memorial Day Parade is considered a nonprofit community service organization, if this is
Okay.
written that it's administrative, Joan handles it,
Joe nails it.
All right.
And
right?
Yeah.
Which I
She's
think-
handling it now.
Which I think in the last meeting, didn't we say that there was a list that was going to be?
That's what I'm gonna
We
ask.
established the list, but then there was some things, well,
Changes.
why aren't you grandfathering this and
Right.
grandfathering that? It's like, no, we're gonna take the so-called holidays and try to get the holidays out of here and keep this as neutral as we can, so it doesn't reflect anything in particular, but again, try to give some resemblance of direction. like we are trying to do now.
On Memorial Day, just clarify that, there are, what, 15, 25 different displays, different events that are going on during that period of time. Some for profit, some just displays. I mean, there's the Memorial Day stuff going on, and there's the chicken barbecue, but aren't there displays also?
Vergennes Day.
Vergennes Day there is.
There's a thing of Vergennes
Vergennes
Day.
Day.
Okay.
It's
I
Vergennes
think of
Day is
Vergennes
like
Day.
that.
I'm thinking about Vergennes.
Yeah.
Vergennes Day is another, it's our own event.
Right.
So that is something that was coordinated through the chamber, but
Is that
approved-
exempt, the
approved by-
Vergennes Day exempt from,
Yeah, because it's us.
right,
Well, it's an event,
It's an
right.
event.
and there's really no display per se,
Right, right.
so.
I was trying to clarify in my own mind.
Yeah.
If there's 20 people on Vergennes Day that have stuff set up, they come under special use policy, and if they happen to be a for-profit selling stuff on that day, then they would come under that part of it in order to get permission. And
Well, I
if
don't
they're
think you're
not-
looking at the individual vendor, you're looking at the sponsor of the entire event. You're
Okay.
looking at the
Alright,
city
okay.
and the chamber as opposed to the individual vendor.
Okay, I got it, okay.
There's an umbrella that would go over that.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah, okay.
And I did think, but the last time with the list, I know we took the list off of the policy, but we indicated that Joan would end up
We're gonna keep a.
pre-scheduling.
We're gonna
them,
keep a list
basically.
of city events.
Mhm. Okay.
Where, and that list will be a little shorter because 2 or 3 of the items on there are not city events. And those items that are not city events, they will need to apply.
Okay.
Any other hands over there, any other discussion? So, everybody is on number 5, we keep up on this, it's gonna wear it out. Number 5, everybody's good 365 days a year?
Yep.
Yes? Yes?
Anything can come to the gate.
We'll give them how much you gave? Nope. All right, so that can go away, number 5 can go away.
Yep.
Number 7, amount of days.
45.
Is that gonna be enough?
45.
45.
Is that gonna be
45,
enough?
sure.
Now, the
Yeah.
thing is, here, we need some clarification on that then, is take it down, and, cause somebody did send me some information. Take it down for an hour and put it back up, can be another 45 days?
New application.
Because you've got, I'll use the, United Way. They usually have something from, what is it, September, mid-September, or so.
September to March.
Till
And
they reach
through
their goal.
till almost April.
Yeah.
I spoke
That's
to
gotta go.
United
You
Way,
did.
Mike, just,
They
I
know what
actually
it
was, because I was just curious about when it is put up and when does it come down, and it's a
Moving
long
down the
time.
street.
And I mentioned to them about our display policy and about the fact that we probably would not be allowing 6-month displays, because that's what it is, it's September through March. And the person that I spoke to, I don't remember her name, she said that they will follow whatever policy the city council set. So if it's 45, they'll follow it.
Consensus, 45?
Yep.
Yep.
45, okay?
Yes.
Everybody? 45 it is. All right, so those are the things that we wanted to accomplish. Has anybody got any other comments that they want to bring up about the policy that we haven't?
I have a question on number 6, and I think we probably all got the same communication, but, oh yeah, public nuisance definition needed, clear and present danger, some reference to specific laws, I don't know. I mean, I kind of like the last sentence, just maybe as the whole thing for number 6. It shall comply with all applicable city rules, regs, ordinances, state and federal law, et cetera.
If you start specifying something, you're
No.
leaving yourself open
No,
for
that's-
something you're not thinking of, so.
That's why I
The
was,
generic federal laws, state laws, ordinances.
no, I
Okay.
like
It's a
that.
catch-all.
I think
You're
that
saying
that,
delete everything except for that last
the
sentence?
last
Yeah.
sentence seems to me all you need there, because that covers everything. And it isn't necessarily our policy, or it's a rule we've adopted or something, but That way we don't have to deal with something that's public nuisance, clear and present danger to public safety. That's all in the laws and the rules and
Not
state federal
necessarily.
law? No?
Mm-mm.
Okay. What-
I mean, somebody could have a pyrotechnic display and it's not breaking any law necessarily. And, I mean, that's the
If
reason,
you're- if
one of
you're
the
licensed-
examples that I gave, I think, because I put that language in,
Okay.
was just that. I mean, somebody
If
has
you're,
a
if
display.
you're
and
licensed to
You know,
pyrotechnics,
They can just do it.
and you have to get approval of the fire chief within the town, and if he does it, then he could fire fireworks off in the park.
Or have a cauldron with flames and
Yeah.
or any number of things, I mean,
Okay.
that I can't even think of, but,
Which is
Well, let me see if I can find.
No
'cause I
burning
think
at the
I
stakes?
brought it along.
Oh, that was burning of the stakes. Okay, so are we making any changes there, Peter, or?
Well, let me just, I think you all. I
The
didn't
first
bring
part
the
is
one that I-
obviously about denying somebody.
Yep.
You know,
It's kind of separate.
I think it, maybe if it had another phrase in there about, and shall be maintained such that, I think that the first part of that is about when their application comes in. And the other thing is they need to make sure that it
Safe,
that
safe.
it stays safe throughout the time that it's being displayed.
Safe and maintained through the
Okay.
display period.
I wasn't really trying to, I mean, I think we need something like number 6 in there. But the comment that I got, and we all got it, there was somebody that suggested that the problem with a public nuisance, they were recommending that be maybe tied to a specific.
Oh, that was Anthony Dupree. That's in the
Okay.
minutes. That's where you read that.
Oh, I did,
Yeah.
okay, sorry, I'm
You,
1 week behind.
You missed the last council meeting, and Mel's favorite set of words were, if we upset an equal number of people, then we've done our job. So I think,
Okay, all right.
And then actually, the one on public nuisance can be tied to a statute. The statute that authorizes us as a city council to do certain things in the city. It's a long list of things that we have authority to do. One of them is to define what a public nuisance is.
Right, okay.
So if we wanted to tie it to the statute, and then we can just define what public nuisance is. We can either do it ourselves, or we can just take the dictionary definition and use that.
And Anthony said that he thought it should be tied into a statute somehow.
Yeah, well, that's the only statute that I can think of that we could tie it to, and that's just the one that gives us the authority to define it.
Which is a whole nother can of worms.
As I said, you could define it by just saying it's the Webster's Dictionary definition, and that's what a public nuisance is.
Well, let's look at that and put it in
The
and.
league may have a
They may
model.
have,
They
okay,
have
yeah.
model.
I'm also presuming that when this is all done, this is gonna get a.
Oh, yeah.
Full vetting by,
yep,
I mean, a full vetting by the
Mhm.
attorney.
A what?
A full vetting by the attorney.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by that. It will, at some point,
it'll go back. Yeah.
if the city council says, we need to get to a certain point.
Yes,
all right,
yes.
All right? And
Yeah.
if the city council, wants this to be reviewed, by the city attorney,
Mhm.
we can do that. And so I don't know what you mean by full
Well,
whatever.
the last-
The point is,
Yes.
the reason why I bring that up, Peter, is that if anybody is thinking that the city attorney is going to issue a legal opinion on this policy, he won't. Because any of these cases were all done on a case-by-case basis. So his review, I don't know, I can tell you that Jim Ouimet will not issue an opinion that this is a legal policy, because the case law is done it's all on a case-by-case basis.
I think at the very least, we need to show the public that we have performed our due diligence and had at least our attorney look at it and say that based on whatever resources he has. But I think you're right, I mean, everyone is so unique that,
Right.
you know,
That's
he's gonna go to
yeah.
the Supreme Court again, or
The
something.
word that I've been using with Jim is the word defensible. Is this a defensible policy?
Yes.
Right? Because Jim is not going to guarantee that this policy absolutely meets the Constitution, because he
No.
can't do that.
No.
Because
But-
everything's on a case by case. But I think the opinion that you're looking for, is this a defensible position?
That's fine.
If,
My point is simply, last time, he looked at this and looked at the Secretary of State's office opinion. That, to my review, is no legal review at all, because we all did that ourselves, I mean, in terms of looking at that. And I would like a fuller, after we have come up with a policy, before we finally vote on it, I'd like some sort of review along the lines of what you're talking about, Bill, too, and Mel.
And perhaps Anthony would send the revised policy to this lawyer friend who deals with, who allegedly deals with these policies, to at least say, you've got something that's not good in it. He probably wouldn't issue an opinion either.
Right.
But he
He's already
might,
seen parts of it.
he might flag something and say, you know, you ought to be careful about this one.
Yeah.
It will be reviewed.
Okay.
I think one of the other
Some
concerns
there.
we had was that we've spent, you know, a number of meetings and a fair amount of time, and I think we're getting really, really close. And it would be nice if we could, you know, within the next meeting or two, get to a point where we all kind of feel like, okay, let's take it to that point, and let's get it on an agenda at some point for a vote.
Yeah. I mean,
Sooner than later.
I was kind of feeling, I mean, sorry I missed the last meeting, but I'm kind of feeling that this is almost,
Yeah,
it's at that point now. I mean.
Okay, yeah, good.
And I want to thank the Addison Independent for all their coverage on this. They've been very helpful, and read a couple articles, and they're happy to see that we're involving the community in it as well, and that's a very strong point. So, you know, now, I think everybody's done talking at the table at this. People in the audience, do we have any other additional comments that you'd like to add at this time?
Aaron, question I had is, like, how would you address, like, it's first come, first served, right, on the application?
Mm-hmm.
So if you get somebody that comes in, okay, they get through the gate first, but let's use the creche as an example. You know, the creche is only pertinent for a certain period of time. If somebody comes in first, you know, and trumps that, how do you treat that?
There will be more than one display allowed on the park at one time. So, and maybe we need to, that was a question that came up, is how many displays are you gonna be able to handle? What we would prefer is not to have 4 sets of creches on City Park at one time. That wouldn't be of best interest to everybody, but to try to diversify and allow the different, that's a good question though, Bernie. I guess we need to figure out.
I'm not
how
sure
we-
we have come up with an answer for
Well,
that, to be
you know,
honest.
No, it's good.
I think, I don't know that I can answer this correctly for you, but there's a process. And the process is the application comes in, and the application goes to the board. And the board is gonna review that application, all right? And there is no, if this is written in such a way that any application is deemed approved, if not acted on, by 30 days, all right? So the point is relative to displays, I don't think it says first come, first served on displays. I don't think it says that. It does say that the only first come, first served is relative to Joan, you know, so yes, there will be a race to the bake sales, all right? That's there, all right? Relative to, this is what I would think this board would do, and any time that they get an application, they should say, okay, what do we have going on in the park? You know, there's these list of city events, all right? So I don't think, there isn't anything in here that says, your application gets acted on first. It doesn't say that. You put in your application, the board has to review and act on it within 30 days. That's what the board does. And the board is gonna make a decision, and you have an appeal, you would have an appeal process. I mean, that's, so really this board has responsibilities, you know, to, as they entertain applications and act on them.
Pat?
Yeah, how much ahead could you put application in? I guess that's what
I think we had this, there was something in here about 30 days or something.
30 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't have a 30-day approval process if you can only put in your application 30 days ahead, can you?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
need to
sure.
submit it 60 days in advance of the day you
Yeah.
want it there.
It's not going to, it's just, we can change that. We can change that to 45 days or whatever.
No, I think it should have a 30-day. Or a time limit like that, so that you don't have someone calling me in January to book in December. It's like,
So maybe
there's
we should make a
30-day
45 in advance.
Well, the 45 is there.
No, they could be submitted in 45 days prior to the
Prior,
event.
okay, I see
With a
what you're
30-day
saying.
response
That's
time,
what she
up
was
to a
saying.
30-day.
Yeah.
Months to do it, though.
Yep.
You could be left with nothing.
I'm sorry,
You
I'm
better
not,
say 90.
I'm not
It says
quite-
that you can't
yeah,
apply until 30
30
days
days,
before.
right.
And they're saying they have a 30 days
Day
to
window to
decide.
work on it,
Mhm.
right.
So that
So-
comes out to no time.
Okay,
I
we-
say,
We want to make sure there's enough time so they can appeal to the council, so there's a
Yeah.
council meeting that they
well, then
can
you're gonna have to
attend.
make it more than 30
Yeah, you
days.
better say like 90.
Yeah.
I'm missing something here, I don't see the.
Well, if this
It
is.
already does it.
It's on the first page, the bottom.
Application must be filled out,
Right,
number one.
there- where's the, must be
Applications
acted
be
on in 30
filed.
days?
We haven't got that in
That's
there
right
yet.
in there.
We haven't got that in there yet.
Right
Oh,
there,
okay.
Mel, 30 days prior
Yeah,
to the
but
first.
he's wondering about the automatic approval for non-action.
Yeah.
That is not written in there yet.
Yeah.
We gotta do that.
Don't bother.
So,
What's that? Don't bother?
Don't bother would be my personal opinion on that one, but,
Okay.
yeah.
so we wanna go, are we gonna put 30-day approval? And then if that, we'll change that to something more, so we say 60 days?
Or 90.
What,
Because
you're
they
the one,
need to have time to appeal to the council if
Yep.
they don't like our decision.
anybody got a problem with 90 days?
No.
Whatever works in terms
Yeah,
of
whatever
timeline is
works.
fine.
90 days.
So
That's
we're
what we'll
from
put.
45 to 90,
Huh?
right? We went from 45 to 90?
No.
No.
30.
No.
It's 30, right.
Okay.
We went from 30 days prior to the event to have an application submitted to 90 days.
Not more than.
Not more than 90 days. The 45 days for the event to be on display still stays at 45.
Right.
Okay?
Mary Harris. Also, in regards to that, shouldn't there be something there for a timing for denial? If it is gonna be denied, that they don't take 90 days to deny it?
No, they're gonna have 30 days to respond. You got 90 days, they can be submitted 90 days in advance, and then, once they get it, they have up to 30 days to respond. So, shame on those that wait 30 days prior to submit. Okay?
I think maybe what Mary's referring to is that if something is denied, they have a 30-day period to appeal. That's what that's how a zoning permit would work. All right, and you can see that appeal process to city council's in a parentheses. Nobody's written that yet.
Andy?
Quick question, Mike. One of the concerns that was raised, I believe, last month in the committee concept was that if people might not be available, especially during the months, was there some discussion when you guys were batting this around of having alternates from the different rec
No.
committee or planning people, just in case that there were the summer months?
No, we didn't discuss that. We're hopes that we're not gonna give Joan any time off. She's gonna work 365 days.
Joan does go on vacation, and if
I
it
know.
just happened to coincide with a period where,
You put in the 30-day, I think the concern was because of the fact that the council only meets once a month and the appeal process, not the original three, not the.
That was.
If I understand your question correctly.
But
Well, no, just
That's
if,
what
if
he's saying.
you could do something where there was, where there was like a 5-member committee, but a 3-person quorum sort of thing. I mean, you could define that so that you have built-in alternates that could be either part of the whole process or not. I mean, it wouldn't.
or just someone to pinch, I'm just thinking just someone to pinch hit, so.
Yeah, a member from the Recreation Committee, a member from the DRB or Planning, or an employee of the city clerk's office. That would give them 3. We'd have 3. Me, Melissa, or Leslie. And the Planning Commission could use one of theirs, and the Recreation one of theirs.
Maybe I'm thinking doomsday
Well, I mean,
scenario.
one thought to be able,
solar storms coming.
to write this is that it could be written, if we're gonna have a 3-member committee, it could be comprised of the clerk, or in her absence, her assistant. A member of, let's just say that we go with the planning commission to avoid the confusion, that there's, the second person is a planning commission member designated, and an alternate designated in their absence, and then a recreation committee person designated by the recreation committee, and an alternate also designated
Yeah.
by them. So now you have your 3 primary,
Yeah.
and you have your 3
alternates.
subset.
But you're gonna get more than 1 page.
Huh?
It's
Yeah.
gonna be more than 1 page when you're done.
Just shrink the font.
Okay,
I got a few more things.
sure, go ahead.
Mary Harris again. You guys did some changes and we don't know what they are except for by how you spoke about them. So apparently the list under Article 1 has had a few deletions, is that correct?
Totally deleted.
Totally deleted.
Totally deleted.
There's
So
no
that
list.
does not exist anymore at all, the pre-approved city list?
That got deleted at the last meeting by consensus.
There
Okay.
are some on that list, though, that will be pre-scheduled by Joe.
And they are only city
But they're
events.
city events.
You know,
Okay.
Vergennes Day,
All the
French
city-
Heritage Day.
All the citizens have to look at is the city green policy from April 24th. So, what's been deleted? That's what we don't know.
Basically, we're keeping just the city events that'll be pre-approved, that's it. That's Vergennes Day, French Heritage Day, Memorial Day. That's it.
and as I said before,
Pumpkins
Well,
in the
they
park.
already have that approval through a different process.
Right.
Farmers Market's not a city event, they would have to, just like they have in the past, it's for profits, they would apply.
Okay.
Yeah.
So holiday stroll is not part of that?
That's a
That
city
is,
event.
That's part of
pumpkins
the
in
city-
the park,
city event.
those are all city events. The Strawberry Festival would leave.
So the nativity has traditionally been a part of the holiday stroll and
It's not a
lighting
city-
the city green. And you're saying it's not part of the city.
we can't go there, Mary, because then we start showing favoritism and start crossing over the border. We realize where everybody wants this, but here's again the point where some people are gonna be upset. Things are still gonna happen, but we gotta be careful on how we document it.
It does seem discriminatory if you're gonna choose some that stay and some that don't, and the nativity has been there much longer, so it seems discriminatory.
But you're looking at events versus displays, you're not looking at apples and apples. There's a difference between the two. One is an event that comprises people and activity, one is a static symbol or display.
That's true.
And again, I apologize that this didn't get out on the net. I take sole responsibility for that. But I was ill and did not make it happen, so.
Will the final policy be out for public review before it's voted on?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Once we can massage this again, And again, I owe it to the council to get it to them first, give them a few days. That way, if we've made some slips from what we've discussed tonight, they have a chance to tell me that we made a boo-boo, and so we can correct that before we go public. We don't wanna, and I don't mind looking like an idiot, but I don't wanna look like a total idiot. So, yeah, we're human, we make mistakes, and we'll do our best to try to make sure that it's done right, and this next version definitely will hit the streets in a hopefully more timely manner. No more getting sick, I guess. Gotta get over the rest of it. Okay, any other questions, discussions? If not, Mel, Bill, and I gotta set some time, or unless Mel thinks he can.
Yeah, I'm okay.
You put things to paper and save us getting together and talk about what we just talked about? Okay, and then once you do it, go ahead and send the draft, or with your copy to Bill and I, and we'll do a quick review, make sure everything is captured. Once we're happy, we'll send it to council individually, and then you guys will be given a couple days to respond back to me of good, no good, or if it's no good, tell me what the problem is, so that we can try to turn this around in a very timely manner to get it out on the streets. Okay? Thank you. We're running real short on time, and I know I bumped this a number of times, and I hate to keep doing it, but you know, in the interest of getting home at a reasonable hour, I'm going to skip over the goals, and it's drop dead. Next month, I don't care how late we are, we're going to, not next month, May 22nd, we will talk about goals. Okay, city manager's report. Mel.
I'm going to combine that with my budget
Fine.
proposal. If
Yep,
that's
go for
okay.
it. You got it.
The only thing I wanted to report about does relate to the proposed budget is the Board of Listers held their grievance meeting last Monday. There was 6 property owners that filed grievances. Those decisions went out in the mail a couple of days after that. By law, any property owner that does not agree with the decision of the Board of Listers, they can appeal to the Board of Civil Authority by filing that with Joan. The deadline, I think, Joan, is May 17th. I think it is. We didn't mail it. We didn't mail it until the 3rd. I think it is 2nd and 3rd. So I think I sent you an email. You haven't. They haven't until. Okay, May 17th. We'll I believe is what it, based on our certificate of mailing, Joan, is what it deals with. So anyway, that's that. There may very well, because the 6 properties that filed a grievance, when you look at the value of the property and let's say the difference of opinion, if you will, relative to the grand list, it certainly is material to the property owner, but it's not material to us. You know, so it's not like we have, you know, an appeal for some $2 million property that really could change the grand list. I think we're considerably away from the decimal point. So the budget, just very briefly, that I've was able to finish today. This is the earliest that I've ever got a budget out to the city council, and I can tell you it's difficult for me to do this for a couple of reasons. One is typically I've delivered the budget to you at the end of May, and I can tell you that it's much easier to deal with projections with 11 months under your belt as opposed to 10. The other thing is that on the property tax side, taxes aren't due until May 15th. People have a 15-day grace period, and so the delinquency picture is not clear to us at this point. We aren't even at the due date. I will tell you that when I look at our current revenue page, it's very strong. Administration budget is good. George, you know, I think there's no doubt in my mind he's going over budget, but I can tell you that, you know, George has worked very hard from a labor management standpoint over the last few months, And I can tell you, it's not because we've sent officers home. We're still covering the shifts, but we've actually been very fortunate to receive a number of safety grants. So some of the safety grants that come out of the governor's highway safety, we've been able to use some of those revenues. You know, obviously the cops grant that we received was very very timely for us to get that, but we are gonna run over. You know, Georgia's been on kind of a no purchase mode here for a few months, so that it doesn't go over. The Public Works Department, I will tell you that we do plan on doing some additional paving before June 30th, and that $100,000 line item, which still has about $30,000, we're gonna use that, but I can pretty much guarantee that we aren't gonna use any more salt or sand this year. I'm pretty confident of that. We won't need any snowplow blades, and so their whole overtime picture is in really good shape. So when you take you know, the Public Works Administration and the solid revenue stream, I wish I could predict better than this, but I do predict that we will have a fund balance carryover of, I'm gonna put my neck out here, of at least $100,000. All right, and I'm not gonna know that until we get closer to the end of the year. Point being is that if you were to quickly just turn to page 5, up on the top, the second line down basically takes the revenue forecast for fiscal year 2013, and you subtract from that the budgets of administration, police, public works, voter appropriations, other appropriations. It ends up with an expense budget of $117,000 more than the revenues. And so one of the things is that if we have a fund balance of $117,000, then the tax rate can remain the same. If we don't have a revenue, if we don't have a fund balance of 117, then there either needs to be cuts or there needs to be an increase in the tax rate. And again, I don't know what it's going to be, but as we get closer to the end of the year, we will have a better handle on it. I can tell you, I can tell you, delinquent taxes are actually in pretty good shape. We did not do very well a year ago, and I'm pretty confident that we're going to have a much improved position on delinquencies, which obviously any delinquent, the delinquent level 60 days into the year, anything that the amount that we're below the $52,000 from last year goes right to the bottom line. So conceivably there's an extra $30,000 there that could come in. I will tell you that I did not budget any money for the Opera House. There is not in there. There is not a $10,000 appropriation. You will notice in the administrative budget that I have increased the building maintenance for City Hall from $5,000 to $7,500. In part, some of that is for us to make sure that the city is paying for so-called landlord responsibilities there, but there is not. I do not have it in here to do a direct subsidy to the Opera House. The other thing that this budget does not include is any kind of wage adjustments. There's no wage adjustments incorporated in that budget. That'll be a city council decision at that time as well. So that's the general fund picture. The fire department, if you just turn to the top of page 6, you'll see an expenditure budget of $138,100 with a revenue stream of $123,100. The difference being $15,000. And not this fiscal year, but last fiscal year, the fire department ended the year with about a $14,000 to $15,000 fund balance, and it just sits there and just not going anywhere, but it's not doing anything. So what I'm proposing is to bring that $15,000 forward and use that for other budgeted expenses. So on the one hand, it looks like it's a deficit budget, because it is a deficit budget, but there's actually $15,000 behind the scenes left over from FY11. Recycling center you adopted at the last meeting. The sewer department, I've got that in a balanced budget situation with revenues at 595, equaling expenses of 595. I can tell you that the sewer department continues to be strong. I think our fund balance, I think last year was maybe $70,000 or $75,000. I expect that to be around 90. So certainly there's no need to be looking at increasing sewer rates again. I will tell you, however, though, that remember that we did receive a 1272 order relative to studying our infiltration problems again, and typically that means that there is going to be some capital improvement. So even though we have this, you know, $80,000 or $90,000 in a fund balance, I can tell you that more than likely much of those dollars and more will likely have to be used to address that 1272 order. But that's it's probably about a year and a half out.
You want to cover sludge spread?
Sludge? I'll talk about sludge.
No, I didn't know if you want to just mention it.
Sure.
No.
We were able to clean out Lagoon number 2 this year after trying for about trying to do that for about 3 years. We removed 801,000 gallons of sludge and applied that to the land that you worked on, Rennie, up there behind Northlands. So one of the things that I built a spreadsheet a while back to predict what it cost, how much money we really need to set aside for future biosolids. And now we have good, solid information because we've cleaned out Lagoon number 1, we've cleaned out Lagoon number 2, we know what the accumulations are. It's just a real simple math problem to do that. There was a time when we were just allocating $50,000 because we really don't know what it costs. Now we know. And the amount of money I've got allocated in here is $40,000. The math is about $37,000 and some change. But that really doesn't cover, our permit runs out here in, I believe it runs out in March of 2013. So one of the costs that is associated with biosolids is re-permitting. And you know that can be $10,000, $15,000, okay? So yes, there's my calculation of $37,000, I've got in the budget 40, and we'll need that surplus to get our permit renewed. So that's behind us. The swimming pool, the swimming pool, if you turn to page 8, you'll notice that the expenditure budget in the pool is $8,000 more than the revenue stream, and the reason is that there, as Joe brought up, we've been looking into continuing to make improvements at the pool. You know, we replaced the pump a while back. We've got diving boards that need to be taken care of. But the next thing that was brought to my attention, and when I went down and looked at it, it was so obvious. It was so obvious to me when I looked at it, is that we have gang changing rooms in both the men and women's bathrooms at the pool. You know, it's more prison-like than anything else. And so I've been in the process working with Chris Huston at Breadloaf. I hope his employer knows that he's doing this for me, to design and get a quote on getting partitions in there so that there is 4 or 5 private changing areas. Really, it's just when I looked at it, I thought, my gosh, this is just so obvious. You know, I can remember when we did this project back in the mid '80s, and I know that we did it bare bones, but it was bare bones, this particular changing room. So it's time to invest some money. I'd like to be able to pull this project off before the league meets that are scheduled on July 27th and July 28th. It might be a little ambitious, but it'd be great for that improvement to be done. Right now, the swimming, we've had 2 great years with the pool. It has a fund balance of $10,000. I mean, the place, operated literally on a shoestring, and I've mentioned this before to the board. I mean, one of the real keys to the operation is this swim team thing. I mean, last year we had 114 members of the swim team. They're all required to have passes. We now have a more formal arrangement with Mary Johnson about what they pay. There's another one with a couple other organizations that Joan deals with. Some organization that deals with disadvantaged youth to make sure that they're covered and can go in the pool. So anyway, that's hopefully we can have another good year at the pool. But we do hope to move forward with that. So I stopped printing this at Fund 5. We do have Funds 6, 7, 8, and 9, and those funds really aren't budget related. Fund 6 deals with our Green Mountain Power Co-op account. Fund 7 deals with our revolving loan fund and our mortgages relative to the Maynard building. Fund 8 is where the biosolids funds sit, and Fund 9 is the entity that has tree fund, nativity scene fund, and records restoration fund, reappraisal fund. It has all of those, and we don't really budget spending that money. It's those are just held funds. So so one of the things, Mike, I don't know. Obviously, I'm going to be I will be here at the May 22nd council meeting. My hope is to be able to work, from home or somewhere within a couple of weeks of my surgery, and but I really cannot guarantee you that I can come to a meeting live in June. I don't know that. Mike's wondered about Skype.
We're gonna see if there's a way to Skype and put him up on the big screen.
So I don't know.
Gee, maybe we can borrow some of the court's video arraignment.
We have some new computer stuff here that will let you transfer the stuff onto a screen, and I gotta see if the fire department will let us use it and see how it interacts with the internet. When it was purchased, it was supposed to be very high tech, so I haven't seen it operate yet. So I've got to ask the fire chief, as to if the city might be able to use it, and I can get some training on it. So,
will there be new to this? Will there be any budget sessions? How do we sit down and go over this and ask questions? And got any ideas?
Well, my last day is May 22nd, so typically, Bill, we have.
You just want to rubber stamp this, I know, man.
No, I don't do not. One of the things that we have done in the past, Mike, is like on the 22nd. I mean, conceivably, we could start our meeting at 6 o'clock and try to
first hour.
I'm not.
I don't think it's going to take that long, but I mean, I'd like to understand it and probably have questions and.
Let's talk about, and that's one of the announcements for later. The next meeting is the 22nd, and we haven't determined a location yet. And depending on what issues are on, we'll probably be down here. But Mel and I will discuss and put out to everybody the start time, and most likely the first hour would be a budget workshop. And then rolling into 7 o'clock meeting.
Okay.
And then if we see that we have some time left over before 9 o'clock, then we probably would ask everybody to stay till 9 and try to wrap up some more budget things, realizing Mel's.
One of the things, even though I'm away, and typically, I work closely with these numbers, and so I know the background behind all of the numbers. I don't have any problem. While I'm away, if the board wants to, it's not like I do this budget by myself. I mean, George and I beat him up pretty good here today. He was still standing though, but there's stuff behind the scenes that George and I do that you know, that have more detail. I mean, we're happy to share anything that you want. I mean, we could put that together, George, as soon as you find that $125 error in there, we'll get that squared away. We could give you some background information. You know, Jim Brewer and I mean, he puts his budget together. You know, obviously he relies more on me to take care of insurances and those types of things that he doesn't deal with. I know enough about, you know, when he's got, uniforms and accessories or Scott Air Packs, I know that when he's putting $14,000, I know how many sets of gear he's wanting to upgrade, so I know some of those kinds of things. Jim, the Public Works budget is down a little bit, and it isn't because of the easy winter. You know, as I mentioned, the streetlight budget is down. You know, to me, we should pass that back to the taxpayer. You know, if we're saving $8-9 grand in streetlights, you know, drop the budget. It doesn't mean just let's go find something to spend it on. So there's a 2 or 3 line items in his where we saw some savings. The one thing I do want to mention to you about Public Works, there's a line item about capital purchases, and it actually involves some debt. And when the state has a program, a municipal equipment fund, where you have to pay 25% down, but you can borrow at 2%. That's how we bought the truck back in 2000, it was one that we bought in 2009. And the 2 pieces of equipment that we'd like to replace soon is one of the trucks. It's not the pickup, but it's one in between. I never can tell. It's called a low boy or low something.
Okay,
There's
it's
a phrase
Ford.
for it. I don't know what it's called.
It's a low boy,
Did you
but it's
buy
a
it?
Ford.
You mean the one in Public Works?
Yeah, it's
I didn't buy it, but it is a low boy. Yeah.
Low boy, okay. So that one is 12 years old. It's $134,000 to replace it. So that's a truck that really, it's kind of fortunate that we didn't have a tough winter, because this truck is tired, needs to be replaced. The other thing is the Bobcat needs to be replaced, and that's going to be around $35,000. And so what this budget does is it combines the 134 and the 35, multiplies times 25%, and pays the down payment. And I can tell you that the loader and the attached sweeper, we have 2 more years on. If you kind of wonder about what our debt load is looking out, the loader and sweeper. Did you buy that, Randy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have 2 more years of payments on that, so that'd be FY13 and FY14. That's off. The one that we bought in 2009, see, that was a 7-year lease purchase type deal. The truck that we bought in 2009 was a 5-year loan, and so the last payment, the loader sweeper gets paid off December 26, 2013. The 2009 purchase gets paid off by June 30th, 2014. So, like I say, FY13, FY14, those come off, all right, and then we would start, in essence, paying on this new load. So it's not. Yeah, we do have there is 1 more year. FY14 is going to have more debt than we would like to see, but then you're recovered, you're recovered after that. And that should put us in, pretty good shape.
We've then replaced most of the major stuff, right?
I think that puts us in pretty good shape, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any questions of Mel? If not, Mel, great job. I'm just going to make some real quick announcements. Real special thanks to Craig Viner, Bill Benton, Joe, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Boys and Girls Club, Rotary, who had a better showing than the Lions. And yes, there were some Lions. Some of the schools and religious groups and citizens that helped last Saturday, Green Up Day. The actual count on bags were down. That was a good thing. So we had less trash to pick up, but I think this year it was a more thorough job. Everybody did a great job. So thank you for that. Also, don't forget the Champlain Bridge celebration on the 19th and 20th. Please go help celebrate that great day and that event. Also, look on Vergennes.org for the latest information on the Junior Fishing Derby information. So, and most of all, don't forget, Sunday's Mother's Day.
I went to the meeting because you challenged me to go,
Thank you for doing that.
and there isn't any public transportation going to the bridge celebration. They're going to park everyone in the Adirondack Park beyond the bridge. You know
Okay.
where that is on the right?
Yeah?
That's where the parking's gonna be. There's gonna be a couple of shuttle buses that are gonna move people around. There's gonna be events on both sides. There's gonna be vendors on both sides. Mary was there, she's been to a lot more meetings than I have been, but I
There was-
think they might be praying quite mightily for some dry weather.
Yeah, they actually met, or are meeting tonight. They're probably done meeting by now, but, and so,
But that's where the parking's gonna be, so.
okay, thank you for sharing that information, Pat. The other thing too is, I don't know if Bill and Peter, you guys had left. We had a visitor last meeting, Mary Smith, who is the mayor of the county of Petersburg, up in Ontario. I have some business cards if you'd like. And I got an email from her and just confirming that she had a great time. She really enjoyed attending our meeting, and it seems like we have a lot in common as far as dealing with the same type politic and the issues that we're dealing with. And the thing that she liked the best about the city was the bottle of wine. So on that, who do I pick on tonight? Who wants to make a motion to adjourn? Randy does. He wants to go home. Who seconds?
I'll second.
Rennie seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you.